MCM Desk Flip, staining with paint, again, with Rebecca Willis from the Woodland Studio. The main highlights will be cleaning hardware, using veneer, making drawer liners, and attaching legs, and more. Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. I just want to preface by saying that most of the footage I filmed vertically instead of horizontally, so just bear with me. I know it's not the greatest, but the material is still good, so I hope you enjoy. The required supplies are cleaning solution, shop towels or microfiber cloths, a shop vac, various sanding pads, and that brown paper bag, Dollarama straps, Gorilla Glue and clamps, tack cloth, paintbrush, and a foam pad. Paint will be using Behr, Basswood, and Studio White, top coat, paint stripper and an old paintbrush, steel wool, vinegar, and an old pot, wallpaper, poster board, a glue gun and Mod Podge, a roll of veneer, iron, and wood filler, and I bet a bit more. The first thing is to inspect, and I am looking at all these drawers, and all the drawers were actually in really good condition, so that was a save. However, looking at all of the outside of the desk, there's a lot of chips and scratches. I initially thought I was going to actually paint the whole desk white, but as I went along with stripping and sanding, I realized that the veneer was quite thick, and I changed my game plan. But as you can see, all of the liners, all of the drawer glides were in great shape, and my overall impression of all the drawers was that it was solid wood, so I was able to sand down all the drawer fronts to its solid wood state, and also will be using a paint wash on those. However, this top drawer was not in good shape. It was broken and it was needing to be fixed. As well, on the left side of this desk, I was going to initially use Bondo, but instead I used a small strip of the pre-glued veneer, and that worked so well. The next step is cleaning, and using a ratio of 1:1 with TSP and water, I was able to scrub clean, rinse with water, and let it dry for the next step. There was quite a number of repairs for this piece. This top drawer was really bad shape. So what I did was, using pliers, I removed all of the staples, all of the nails, I scrubbed clean all of the joints and removing all of the glue, and basically pulled the whole drawer apart and reassemble it with Gorilla Glue, clamps, and these straps from the Dollarama. These were $4, by the way. They helped to hold it all in place and waited overnight, and here it is, all solid and sturdy. But the top drawer did have some cracks in the wood, and so I needed to use some floss or plastic string with the Gorilla Glue, and I was able to weave the glue through those cracks in order to then clamp it and have it nice and secure, and it's all ready for the next steps. When stripping and sanding, I decided to use my bacho stripper and sanding set, and also this other stripping set from Amazon. It helps to remove the old finish and the old varnish, and then that actually helps with you using your sanding discs to get through to the veneer or the wood if it's in that case. This area did require chemical stripper, so I used that, and some more stripper to remove all of the old residue. For this area, I did use the bacho carbide stripper followed by my sanding pad, and then the top was not really working, so I had to use the chemical stripper yet again to remove the old finish. Once that was done, then I was able to start sanding. So I started with 150 grit to 180 and finally 220 grit, washing off all of the sanding dust between, waiting for it to dry, and then moving to the next level. Finally, the last step, I used a tack cloth to remove all the final dust. When creating my paint wash, I used 1 part Studio White, 2 parts Basswood, and 9 parts water, mixed it all together, and then I used a paintbrush to paint it onto the surface. Once the paint was on, then I immediately used a country chic paint sponge to wipe down and smooth out the paint surface, giving it that kind of washed look. You can use a normal sponge from the Dollarama, but I definitely recommend the Country Chic ones because they work really well. And as you can see on the left, this is the area that the paint wash was on, and on the right is the old finish. When preparing your top coat, make sure you assemble all the pieces properly, and you have to really also make sure that you are assembling the tubing in the correct direction. So in this position, I can paint downwards. If I wanted to paint just say underneath or upside down, then I would point the nozzle in the opposite direction. After that, I need to strain my top coat. So I first will stir the top coat, and then once I'm done stirring the top coat, then I will put it into the strainer and let it strain all the type of remnants or dirt or anything else that may have gotten caught up in the top coat, and that will really help make a much smoother process for the top coat on the piece. Before I spray, you do need to prepare your personal protective equipment, and this is the mask system that I'm using here. The NIOSH filters are actually helping to filter out organic vapors, so I've tested it and it's fitting correctly, so then I am ready to spray. So for this next section, again, I'm so sorry, I forgot to film using the top coat on the desk. But the same techniques are what I used on the dining table video I did, so I just borrowed that footage from my other video just to show you how you can apply the top coat with the Wagner sprayer. So again, it's the same technique, so let's see that next. When spraying the top coat, you first want to go vertically, and then you want to go in the opposite direction in order to get an even coverage over the entire piece. So again, this is a dining table, but I use the same principles on the desk. Once again, forgot to film, but using a brown paper bag to lightly sand between coats of paint is almost just like using the 3000 grit sandpaper. So it's going to help smooth down the finish and then helps with the next coat. After stripping the finish off the top drawer, I became to realize that the top was actually MDF, so I couldn't really paint wash it. I decided to use this pre-glued veneer strips to create a herringbone design. So basically you just cut them to size, place them on, and then once everything is dry, you fill in all the cracks with wood filler. And then once the wood filler is drying, I flipped it over and I basically used an X-Acto knife to slice off all of the excess veneer. Then to smooth everything down along the edging, I used 220 grit with my surf pad, and then once everything was dry, I did actually apply the same paint wash to the top. And here it is. The next step is to replace the legs, and these pads or these metal plates are tapered, so just make sure that when you are applying them that you're putting them in the right direction. I'm using the appropriate drill bit for this area, drilling the holes and then applying the screws. I also wanted to make sure that the placement was exact and even on both sides, so I'm using this level, and I'm also applying the same height as seen here onto the opposite side, so everything is evened out and the legs are stable. The next is to clean the hardware, and this hardware has had 50 plus years of use. It was grimy, it was old, it was just not a good shape. So using a pot of water with 1 cup of vinegar, you place the hardware in the pot, and this is a pot I use specifically just for hardware. I put it to boil, and once it's at a rolling boil, I let it sit for about 5 minutes. Then I remove it with the tongue, cool it off, and then I scrub with steel wool. And here's the final result. Another way to elevate your piece is to create removable drawer liners. So to create these, I got some poster board from the Dollarama, wallpaper from Home Depot, some string, some glue guns, and some Mod Podge. I started by carefully measuring out the inner dimensions of the drawers and making sure that I get the correct measurements. Because I'm using this wallpaper and folding it over the edge, it will actually make the drawer liner a little bit thicker than normal. So in order to compensate for that thickness, you will need to decrease the measurements by 1 to 2 millimeters. Now that I have the measurements, I'm cutting out the measurements onto the poster board, and once I have that in place, then I cut it out with the X-Acto knife. Now I'm just making sure that it will actually fit into the drawer. Using Mod Podge and a cheap brush from the Dollarama, I'm spreading out the glue and placing the poster board, cutting out little squares on either side in order to help the paper fold over the poster board. Then I'm using a glue gun with some string to make a little pulley. And once it's all complete, I'm going to place it into the drawer. But as I said, this was the first one I made, and it was a little bit too thick, so make sure to decrease your measurements by 1 to 2 millimeters to compensate. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I apply Howard's Feed and Wax. This is not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by Howard products. It's just a product that I really enjoy. I am though using the Country Chic waxing brush. This has been sponsored. I was sponsored with this about a year ago, but actually I really love how well I'm able to use it, and you'll see that in the video. Going back to Howard's Feed and Wax, this product is awesome. I find that it quenches the thirst of the wood and leaves a protective finish. It's made out of beeswax, carnauba wax, and orange oils, and so it does have a slight orange scent at the beginning, but that does eventually diminish. But what's left behind is a really conditioned wood, and you'll see the difference next. And here we are, the final reveal. I am just so happy with how this wood grain came through. I cannot believe the finish that used to be on this piece. I took it from old century or outdated to in the future modern. With light pink undertones, this piece can actually fit almost anywhere, and that wood grain just came through so well. I have it for sale on handmadehomeco.com, link below, and I really hope it does sell. Otherwise, I guess I'll keep it. So thanks for watching. You've watched another tutorial with me, Rebecca Willis from Woodland Studio. And remember, you can do it too.